Here's a batch full of coal loads that I made over the last couple days. I'm going to show you the materials you'll need to make these, as well as step by step how to make a single coal load. Okay guys, so the first thing you're going to need is a place to make these, because it's a really messy process. So I'm out in the garage, so you need a place where you can make a mess and it doesn't matter, because you're going to make a lot of foam, dust and debris, as well as there's going to be coal all over the place. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need is a source of coal or whatever you're going to make for these loads. I use filter media, so find yourself something that you can grind up. I think coal briquettes might work, or whatever. Anything that looks black and powdery will work. You're going to need something to make the foam base. You guys know I like to reuse stuff and keep the cost down, so I'm reusing foam from when I first built my layout. I kept some chunks, and this stuff works good because it's 2-inch pink foam insulation, and the coal hopper happens to be 1 inch deep, so I get 2 loads every time I cut one out. You're going to need a jig. Make yourself a jig of the size of the coal car, or whatever car you're going to make this load for. You need a metal ruler. You'll need some kind of Tupperware container or something just to keep your ground up coal in, and ease of spreading it on the loads once you're ready to get to that step. A mortar and pestle to grind up the coal if you're using something like me. I need to grind that up further because it's too coarse. So I grind it up to make it more of a powder. I'll show you there with that's the stuff I'm using. It's too chunky, so I use that mortar and pestle to grind it up. You'll need a piece of sandpaper, a hacksaw. I use this Fane Multimaster. It's basically a sander, but you could use anything. You could use a file or a rasp or some sandpaper. It probably would take a lot longer. I like the electric sander for that, to carve down the foam inserts. Always, always, always safety first. So we have our gloves, hearing protection, and safety glasses. It's a good idea to have one of the cars out here that you're going to use. So I have one out here for test fitting the foam inserts when I'm carving them. You'll need some sort of marking utensil, like a Sharpie or something. A Swiss Army knife or any kind of sharp edge, just to pop the foam inserts out of the car once you've got them fit. You'll need a brush to spread the glue. You'll need 50-50 Elmer's glue all, which is just white glue, half water. You need some sort of finishing spray. I use this Krylon crystal clear matte finish just to kind of spray them when they're done to seal the coal in. You'll need some newspaper, and it's a good idea if you're grinding up something like this coal dust or whatever, it's a good idea just to wear a respirator. So I wear a respirator while I'm grinding the coal up or spreading it on. Any of the dusty processes, it's good to wear that mask, because it always gives you eye protection as well. Okay guys, so that's everything you'll need. Let's get started with the first step. Okay guys, so step 1 is to rough cut out our foam insert. So we'll use our jig that we already made for this to draw our rough cutout lines. Just like that. So I made the jig so that the inside of the line is the inside of the coal car, so that I sand off the Jiffy marker marks. So once I sand those off, I know that I'm at the right depth. So once we got them marked on here, we'll use the hacksaw. Okay, so that gives us our rough shape, and you remember I said that these foam inserts are, this is 2-inch foam, so I get 2 out of every piece, which speeds up the process. Okay, so I got my marks on there, 1 inch. There. Now we have 2 rough cut foam inserts. This one's ready to sand because it's already got the correct marks on there from the jig. So I'll do this one again, because the bottom one always ends up a little wider. When you make your jig, helps to make it maybe a millimeter wider, just to give you a little bit of room for error. Okay, so there we go. Guys, we got 2 marked up, ready for sanding, which is the next step. Okay guys, so the next step is to sand down the foam insert to get it to the exact size we want. So I've told you I need to sand the markings right off. And I kind of sand them at an angle too, because the coal hoppers are kind of tapered as they go further down, they get tapered inward. So I kind of sand at an angle when I make these. So let's go ahead and get this foam insert sanded down to the correct size. So now I've got the marks all sanded off, so I know that I'm fairly close. So the next step is to put the tapers on the top to make it look like it was loaded at a coal tipple or similar coal loadout. So I like to use the straight edge of the bench just to help me eyeball this when I put these on for the first time. There you can see the first kind of tapers to put on it there. Now we'll test fit it in the car and see how close we were. Pretty close, just this one end, it's okay, we'll just touch it up. Yeah, that's pretty good there guys, I'm happy with that. The best thing about making them with these foam inserts is that no two are alike, which is identical to the prototype when they're loading these things. They never end up looking the same. Some have bumps in the middle. There's their foam inserts fitting in the car nicely. It's kind of sloped at one end, but that's okay. I don't like them all the same. I like them when they're different because it just gives some variety. And you can just have fun with this when you're doing it. Make them however you want. I've made some that kind of went like this in the middle, or some that were sloped completely to one side, or whatever. Some that didn't look like they were fully loaded. You can do whatever you want. There's really no guidelines to doing this. We know it fits in the car. Now we can go to the final step, which is putting some coal on this and making it look more realistic. So next step in my process is to grind up some coal to make it a little bit more realistic. So a little handful like that is really all it takes. That'll usually do about 2 or 3 cars. Okay, so that's pretty good. Mostly powderized. Put this into our good coal bin. And then we're ready to spread that. Okay, so let's move on to the final step, which is spreading the coal. Okay guys, let's finish this off. Got our 50/50 Elmer's glue all and water. I just put a strip over the top. Use our brush. Okay, once you got the whole thing covered, I find it works good if you just do another little strip like that, just to kind of give it a little bit more and it'll soak downwards. Okay, now here's our Tupperware container that we use for spreading. The reason we use newspaper underneath is so we can gather up that coal that fell off the side and then just reuse it. Okay, once you got it completely covered like that, now we'll just let it dry. Usually I let them dry overnight, seems to work well. And after it dries, I come out here, knock the coal off, and then give it a shot of the Krylon clear mat, and it's done, ready to be loaded into a car and hauled around your layout. One thing too you can do when just before you're finishing them, once they're dry, just press along the edges of the coal with your fingers, just to kind of get those spots where it's sticking out further and that'll help when it goes to when you go to load them in the car. All right, guys, that's how I make my HO scale coal loads. Thanks for watching.